and you love great food, it's What's Cooking on Wine right here on CRN.
Live across America, the PM Show with Mike Horn on CRN Digital Talk Radio.
Hey, welcome to the Big PM Show nationwide, coast to coast. I am Michael Horn. Paul Stern has joined us. Hello, Paul.
Glad to be with you, Mike. What an exciting edition ahead today of the PM Show.
It is good. We got news to talk about, and the big news, of course, if you're a David Letterman fan, the final days of the Letterman Show. Last 3 shows coming up. And this could be pretty good. We have Brian Abrams here with us, the author of an ebook now on Amazon, An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman. You know, Brian was on with us before and has written great books and more. He had the Party Like a President book. Remember True Tales of Inebriation, Lechery, and Mischief from the Oval Office? Like this guy. And so we're going to have him on here in just a bit on the big broadcast. Should be good. Taylor Swift was at the Billboard Awards. And do you see the way she's dressing now? I mean, she was dressed up as a country queen before. She was looking great, and she still looks good, but she's really kind of sleazed it up even more now that she's a pop star, pop diva.
Going that Britney Spears route?
Yeah, she was the top artist. I mean, congratulations to her. She's top artist at the Billboard Awards. The top country artist was Florida Georgia Line. The Billboard Chart Achievement Award presented by Samsung Galaxy, fan voted, was Taylor Swift. What else did she win? She won top female artist. Did she win anything else? Yeah, she won top Billboard 200 album. She won award after award. She won, that's just a few. She won 8 of these awards. And I think this show was done, what, was it Saturday night? Was that when it was on over there, the Billboard big award show? This is a really big deal. And it's congratulations to her for doing so well. That's very nice. You know, Kanye West, was he booed? Apparently when they introduced him and he went out there, they booed him. Not only is Taylor Swift better than whoever he said she was, she's won like 8 awards now in 1 year. She's been in pop music 1 year and she's won 8 awards. It's amazing. Oh, here's some more. Let's see. She also won top Billboard 200 artist, top Hot 100 artist, top digital song artist. Boy, the list goes on and on for her as you take a look at the things that she has won. Top streaming song video, she also won for that. So it's pretty good. Jason Aldean, kind of a screamer in country music, won for the top country album. Congratulations to him. I always like to check out some of the top country acts here. And Calvin Harris, I know you're a big fan, won for the top dance and electronic artist.
I don't know if you caught it down here at the corner towards the bottom of the list, but there's a kind of a, well, it's not often spoken about category, but it's the best rendition of a Marvin Gaye song, and that went to Pharrell Williams.
Really? I don't see that category, so I'll take you at your word. They did have a top Christian song, and Carrie Underwood won that. Something in the West. So they've kind of expanded the Billboard Awards a little bit over the years. So this is pretty good. Now, David Lynch is returning to Twin Peaks. Remember they talked about doing a Twin Peaks show, and then he was going to be on, and then he wasn't going to be on, and that whole thing going on. Well, it's been a month after the director announced that he was leaving Showtime's planned 9-episode Twin Peaks. That's David Lynch.
Oh, by the way, this is not the Twin Peaks in Waco, Texas, where they had the big biker shootout.
No, that's correct. Thank you very much for that. That was a tragedy this weekend.
David Lynch going there probably wouldn't be a good idea at any event, but nevertheless, not the same.
Lynch alerted his Twitter followers that he's back on board with the project and that he co-created with Mark Frost. And he says the rumors are not what they seem. It is happening again. So those of you that are excited about that, there you go. We'll have a little bit more information for you, too, some more news stories of the day. But coming up after the break, we're talking about David Letterman's Swan Song coming up this week, the last 3 shows. Maybe we'll find out who's on that very last show, too. Brian Abrams is going to be here with us, the author of an ebook called An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman. It's an ebook, but it's an oral history. We'll find out what that's all about. Stay with us straight ahead. Michael Horn, Paul Stern. This is the PM Show.
Now, kid, I know you look at me and think, man, that guy knows everything. And you're right, I do. But occasionally even I get stumped. I know, hard to believe. But when I need help, I get it from Grainger. Grainger can solve just about anything, from finding the right products to advice on installation to troubleshooting. Grainger gets me what I need right when I need it. When a guru needs a guru, who does a guru call? Guru calls Grainger. Get it? Got it? Good. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get things done with power, comfort, and speed in a Kubota RTV utility vehicle. Now you can get financing as low as 0% APR for up to 4 years during our More Power to You sales event. 0 down, 0% APR financing for terms up to 48 months on select equipment now through June 30th, 2015. Not available for rental, national accounts, governmental customers, or with some customer instant rebate offers. Financing through Kubota Credit Corporation, USA, subject to credit approval. Other exceptions may apply. For more information, call toll-free 1-888-465-8268. For more information or to find a participating dealer, visit Kubota.com.
Welcome back here to the PM Show, nationwide, coast to coast, CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm Michael Horn along with Paul Stern. And we are correct, or we were right talking about this. Kanye West did get booed at the Billboard Awards. Kanye West closed the Billboard Awards with a great performance of All Day and Black Skinhead, but they were booed while he was being introduced before he kicked off the set with his latest single there too, All Day. So there you have the latest from the Billboard Awards.
And he's, of course, married to, Kim Kardashian?
Yeah, I believe they're on that show, The Kardashians. Should be good. This was on Sunday night, by the way, so this is pretty hot news.
Maybe he'll be the next one to get a sex change.
What? I don't think so, but, you could be right. It's a Ryan Seacrest produced show. They say some of those reality shows, they build in the storyline, so who knows? Maybe to keep his gig, Bruce Jenner had to follow the storyline. Maybe Kanye West, if his career starts to foul up, might follow in that steps. I don't know. We'll have to see. I do know this. David Letterman probably can do anything he wants to do because he's had a glorious career hosting late night. It's going to be sad to see him leave this week. And do we have our guest? Yes, we do, online. We have our guest, Brian Abrams is here with us. He has written an ebook called Late Night with David Letterman. It's an oral history of late night. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Hey, it's good to have you back. You wrote the book, as I mentioned before, the Party Like a President book, True Tales of Inebriation, Lechery, and Mischief from the Oval Office. So you're welcome back here at any time after you got those secrets out.
Thanks.
So what prompts you to write this book? And by the way, this is an ebook, so it's online, right?
Right. So it's basically, you can find it at LettermanHistory.com. And I had an editor at Amazon commission me for this right after I finished Party Like a President. And it's essentially, basically you can buy the book for like $2.99 through a Kindle app. So whether you have that on your smartphone or your tablet and so forth. But essentially it's an oral history. It's a thin book where I interviewed something like 50 people who were involved with David Letterman's show, The Late Night Show, in the 80s when he was at NBC.
So you went back to The Late Night Show. First, does David know that you wrote this book, and does he approve?
He knows I wrote the book. I guess it's out of his control whether he approves or not. I think that, there was a point in the book where there was a point in the process of writing the book where I reached out to CBS to see if David would speak with me. And at the time when this was being written last summer, I don't think his mind was quite ready to do legacy press yet. I don't think his head even then was ready. But essentially, just to give the idea of what the book is about, in the 80s, I think, is when Letterman kind of created his comedy legacy. It wasn't necessarily when he went to CBS in 1993 and, the show he's been doing that he's retiring now, but it was the 11 years he spent at 12:30 at night after Johnny is when I think he kind of basically just revolutionized what late night TV was all about. And I went and interviewed dozens of people who either wrote for the show or produced the show or NBC executives and kind of strung together this story of what it's all about.
Yeah, this is this is a book. I look at this book. We're talking to Brian Abrams. He is the author of Late Night with David Letterman. It's an oral history, 1982 to 1993. Do you start this book with he started with a morning show, didn't he, first on NBC?
Right. That's where it begins. For 4 months in 1980, he was brought on by NBC executives, one in particular, Fred Silverman, who had this vision to kind of, he had this understanding that NBC, because back then they were ratings-wise the worst of the three major networks, that they had this room to kind of experiment and play around. And so rather than at this 10 a.m. slot have game shows or, more of a straightforward type morning show, he decided to bring on David Letterman, who basically satirized the morning show. Everything silly and cliched about the morning show that even today we watch and we don't even think about because it's so in one ear out the other, and it's just supposed to be this kind of comforting hum on your TV. He was doing a satirical version of it. And some people got it, and some people didn't. But not enough people got it.
Were there other morning shows going in 1982 at that time? Was Regis on yet? Were some of those shows up?
Sure. Well, this was 1980, and I think that the Today Show was even. Look, that stuff was around
but I'm talking
60s.
about like the Jane Whitley Show, and there was the Montel Williams. Everybody had these shows all day long. They were talk shows. Was there a ton of these shows out there on the air, or was it just basically Regis and Kathy Lee and a few others?
Yeah, it was basically major. Just the three major networks, because cable wasn't. It was hardly in homes at that point.
That's what I'm saying. So this was kind of genius on Fred Silverman's part. This was like one of the first talk shows during the day that they had on TV. Oh yeah, in local markets they might have had Tempo or, Two on the Town or whatever these shows might be. Yeah, something like Bob Braun was big back in Cincinnati. Very good. They had those shows, but they didn't have anything on a national basis other than the Today Show was early morning, but that was kind of news stuff. So Letterman, did he have guests on that show in 1980? I never watched it. That's why I'm asking you.
Oh, he brought comedians on, but and everyone actually kind of played a role. Everyone kind of pretended to be someone. Like they would have Edie McClurg, who we all actually know as the secretary from Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Mm-hmm. She was like a regular player on the show and would come up with these great tips for housewives and how to create take your disposable Bic razors for shaving your legs, but make a decorative piece out of them. And by the way, that when that show failed in February of '82, when Late Night got its debut, number one, it was the first talk show that was ever even on at 12:30 a.m. at night after Johnny. None of the other networks were playing in that game at all.
What about Tom Snyder with his old Tomorrow Show used to be on there?
Oh, forgive me. You're right. So Snyder was on before
I'm helping
Letterman.
you out with the book here a little bit, Brian.
No, thank you. It's all in the book. It's all coming back to me. Yeah. Snyder was on, but the first time, but that was also supposed to be kind of pseudo-intellectual, and it was a little bit wound up.
He would blink his eyes a lot, too.
Yeah, he would be sitting in the chair, and it was Tom Snyder was it was groundbreaking. So what you're saying is Fred Silverman, and I'm just kind of going down this road here. If you bear with me for a second,
sure.
Gave Dave his break and the early morning show. Was it Fred Silverman that then brought him to Late Night?
No, Silverman was out by then.
Why shouldn't Letterman? He always reveres and talks about Johnny Carson, who was the great Johnny Carson, but shouldn't he also be beholden to Fred Silverman, who stuck his neck out to put Letterman on in the first place?
Well, I don't know.
Come on, Brian, come on. That was the guy who gave him his break. Don't you think?
Sure. Yes. Letterman should go around town and talk about Fred Silverman all week long.
Why?
Sure.
Why not? Thank him. If it wasn't for Fred Silverman, the guy, if it wasn't for Corky Mayberry at the KBBQ in Burbank, I wouldn't be here today. And a lot of people will never forgive Corky for that. So there's, Fred Silverman was the guy that brought it through to him.
I guess, but I don't know if you're being serious or not.
I'm being serious. I am being serious on this one.
Well, Letterman was, watching Johnny grow up. Letterman, his whole demeanor and his sensibilities came from that, this sort of walking the fine line of being a broadcaster and a comedian at the same time.
All right, I have a little disappointment in Dave. I understand. I get what you're saying, and he was Johnny Pattern gave him his look and kind of was his mentor, but Fred got him his first gig. Hang on, we got more coming up here. I love this guy. Brian Abrams got this book out called Late Night with David Letterman. Stay with us.
CRN travelers, relax at the beautiful Fountain Grove Inn and Conference Center in Santa Rosa, California. Come to quality and come to luxury. Experience the newly renovated guest rooms. They're generously sized and they're decorated in the Tuscan tradition. They have great, incredible pillow-top mattresses, luxurious linens, and down-filled comforters. The Fountain Grove Inn also offers complimentary Wi-Fi and internet access. There's warm cookies and coffee every evening in the hotel lobby, and you can visit the newly remodeled Equus Restaurant and Equus Lounge with its new wine bar. It's the ideal place to relax and enjoy a glass of wine and watch our What's Cooking on Wine show on CRN with host Larry Van Alst on Wednesdays. It's the Fountain Grove Inn, Hotel, and Conference Center located in the heart of Sonoma wine country. It's easily located in Santa Rosa off the 101 Fountain Grove Parkway exit. Call 707-578-6101. That's 707-578-6101 or visit fountaingroveinn.com.
People are living longer, so David Bach, author of the book Smart Couples Finish Rich, says it's wise to plan for the long haul.
If you're in your 60s today, 1 in 2 of you, statistically, is going to live to be 95 or older. And as sure as I'm alive right now, 5 years from now, I'm going to be saying that 1 in 2 of you is going to live to be over 100. Our retirement lifespan is now going from 15 years to 30 to 35 to 40 years. So I think in your 60s, really you should look at that as what it used to be in your 40s and think today in your 60s, there's never been a better time to be doing financial planning than in your 60s.
Maximize your investments. Consider delaying retirement to save more. Check out Social Security's spousal and ex-spousal benefits and think about waiting to age 70 to claim your own benefit when it's the highest. And finally, illness is costly. Consider long-term care insurance. That's Primetime Focus, brought to you by AARP. I'm Aileen Ellis.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really? Yeah.
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-471-5173, 800-471-5173.
Welcome back here to the PM Show, nationwide, coast to coast, CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm Michael Horn along with Paul Stern. David Letterman winding down his storied career on the Late Show. And our guest today is Brian Abrams. He has written a book, ebook. You can download it on your Kindle, about $2.99 or whatever. It's called An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1983. So, Brian, just before the break there, we got Dave. Fred Silverman gives Dave a break. And then they cancel. That's in 1980. 1982, the show's canceled, and probably Fred Silverman gets fired right about that time for making that blunder. I just made that up. I'm sorry. That's just a joke. That is just a joke. I'm sorry. Thank you.
I'll give you a timeline if you want.
All right. Well, we're good. So, but now, how does he get to the late night show? Because Tom Snyder, I think, retired right about that time, doesn't he?
So, Letterman's morning show was canceled October of 1980.
Right.
Silverman was pushed out of NBC, I think, the following summer.
See?
But the entire time, though Silverman, however, if you want to talk about him hooking up Letterman again, gave Letterman a retainer contract where...
there you go.
So they basically paid him to sit at home.
Because they didn't want to lose him. They didn't want to lose him to another network. They said, we might have something for you. Sit at home, relax.
They knew something was going on here.
And Dave was a weatherman, wasn't he? And on a news station in Indiana before he started all this other shenanigans and doing stand-up, correct?
In the mid-'70s, yeah, he was like a weather guy, and he kind of did like sports news or whatever, just on multiple broadcast-type stuff in Indiana, and then he drove his red pickup truck to L.A. in the mid to late 70s and kind of worked the comedy clubs there for a little bit.
I think he also,
TV.
Yeah, he used to co-host the George Putnam show here at CRN. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I could be wrong about that. But anyway, so 82, he's off. Silverman is gone that summer, but he holds him on a retainer. How does Dave land that, the late night show?
So basically, the mentality was still there at NBC that that it was in the toilet ratings wise, among the three major networks, or the three only networks, pretty much. And there was still this space for them to experiment with programming, especially at 12:30 in the morning or at night, however you want to look at it.
Right.
So they offered Snyder the 1:30 a.m. slot after Letterman, and he said no. So Snyder went away. And I guess that's just like a nice way of firing someone, I'm assuming.
Oh, sure. Should have stayed with it, though. Snyder should have stayed. But anyway, go ahead.
So Letterman, February of 82, he begins this show. And no one really has expectations for it because, again, ratings are bad. He was this funny guy who was on for 4 months in 1980. Certainly not, a celebrity by any means. Not, it wasn't a scenario like today where you could find, like, your niche audience. There was no way of knowing in 1980 that there was like a hip morning satirical show going on the way you would today. You could like get an email or a tweet from someone and kind of be tuned into a specific thing. So he kind of was essentially starting from scratch for many people, but did develop this audience, that were kind of into irony and obsessing over ridiculous things. I think there was a generation of people. I guess who are now in their 40s or maybe 50s, whatever, that were just a little bit tired of like the straightforwardness of Johnny's format, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, but his daytime show too, I agree with you 100%. And his daytime show, a lot of housewives and stuff there. At night, it's kind of like, maybe a more subdued but hipper audience, people coming down off contact highs, things of that nature. People can't sleep.
People stoned out of their mind.
I mean, it's like, but people, it was something new and very different for people that watched the late night talk shows. He was offbeat, but not totally offbeat. He still had a personality that you could go and get to like. And so how long did it take for it to click?
I mean, I think it clicked for like a cult audience pretty quickly.
Yeah.
There were famous segments right away, but I mean, for you to talk about it being a moment where he was, definitely this sort of figure in comedy or TV. I mean, by 84 or 85, there's no question about it. I mean, he had 9 or 10 Emmys at his home by that point.
Unbelievable. What clicked at first? You said there were some segments that clicked right away. What are some of the ones that popped to your mind?
I mean, the first ones that come to my mind are, again, just I want to make a contrast first between Johnny and Letterman and how
Go ahead.
It might seem simple, but I kind of feel like over-explaining it. How with the Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson, it was almost as if there was a feeling that he was inviting viewers to watch the show and be so lucky that they were able to watch these grand stars sit on a couch and talk to a man in a tie. Whereas Letterman, I think, turned it on its head a little bit. Not hatefully toward the format, but just in a way where, like you kind of mentioned, Letterman has this, like, restrained persona. He's not some wacky, crazy, like, loudmouth comedian that handles blue material. He comes across as if he's a polished broadcaster. However, he manages to give this air of, isn't all of this a bit ridiculous?
Hang on here, Brian. We got up against a break. We got more with Brian Abrams. He's the author of An Oral History of the Late Night with David Letterman Show, 82 to 93. We'll be back.
Let me take just a moment or two, if I may, and talk about a great place to eat. That's right. For you folks anywhere in the eastern San Fernando Valley, drop into Bob's Big Boys. That's right. In Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. Now, everybody remembers the name Bob's. They're getting bigger and bigger every day. And little old Bob carrying the hamburger in his checkered overalls is the same Bob that you remember from back through the years. And, of course, if you want to go in for a great lunch, remember their classic burger, the original double-deck hamburger combination. Delicious 100% pure ground beef in 2 patties with American cheese, lettuce, and our famous Big Boy's special sauce. The name is Bob, and I think when you go in, you'll say, by golly, I'm sure glad that I found this restaurant because it's good for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They've got all kinds of things, and all you have to do is remember. Bob's Big Boy in Sun Valley at 8274 Sunland Boulevard. It's a great place to eat.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control of your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank accounts, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problem now by calling the experts at U.S. Tax Shield and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. U.S. Tax Shield offers a price protection guaranteed quote to get you protected today. U.S. Tax Shield is A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, so call now. 800-351-8614. That's 800-351-8614. U.S. Tax Shield. 800-351-8614.
Many couples fight when it comes to money. Investment advisor David Bach.
And in fact, we see it's consistently the number one cause of divorce. It's fighting over money. So then I said, I'm going to go out and study my clients who have been married 20, 25, 30, 40 years. They're well off financially, and they're happy. I'm going to look at what did these couples do differently.
And what did he find? Unhappy couples budget, weighing almost every purchase they make.
The couples that were happy and had done well and had over $500,000 in savings, they made a decision to work together as a couple on their financial plan early, and they just agreed very early on in their relationship on a percentage of their income that they would pay themselves first. And that they would take money right off the top, not use a budget, typically 10% of their income or more, and put it in a retirement account.
David Bach's book, Smart Couples Finish Rich. Tomorrow, who manages the money in a relationship? That's Primetime Focus, brought to you by AARP. I'm Aileen Ellis.
Now, kid, I know you look at me and think, man, that guy knows everything. And you're right, I do. But occasionally even I get stumped. I know, hard to believe. But when I need help, I get it from Grainger. Grainger can solve just about anything, from finding the right products to advice on installation to troubleshooting. Grainger gets me what I need right when I need it. When a guru needs a guru, who does a guru call? Guru calls Grainger. Get it? Got it? Good. Call clickgrainger.com or stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, this is Fred Dreyer. Join me and Michael Horn on the PM Show Wednesdays at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, here on CRN Digital Talk. We talk about things in the sports world nobody else does. So listen in to me and Mike at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on CRN Digital Talk. And go to crntalk.com for more information on other show times. And don't forget to take us with you by downloading the CRN app on the App Store.
Welcome back to the PM Show, Monday edition here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. I'm Michael Horn, Paul Stern, always here together, riding side saddle as we like to do.
Quite a program today.
Yeah, we have with us today Brian Abrams. He has written many great books. He's kind of they call him the Ken Burns of presidential alcoholism, because his first book was called Party Like a President, True Tales of Inebriation, Lechery, and Mischief from the Oval Office. A great book, little synopsis of different things that different presidents did. This latest book out, and you can download it. It's an e-book, $2.99 for your Kindle. And I'm sure you can get it for your iPod as well too. It's called An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1983. These are the NBC years. And just before the break, Brian, we talked about the difference between Johnny Carson. Johnny was kind of like you were in his living room, right? And you were seeing the guests come in and you were watching a dignified discussion. Letterman was a great interviewer with the guests as well too, but it was more like you were having a late night party in his family room at his house, and the beer is popping and you can sit there. There's a little more going on during his show, correct?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that, I don't even know if it was a living room for Johnny. If it was a living room, it was like a very nice living room where you weren't supposed to sit on certain pieces of furniture. he would have his A-list celebrities come in. You were very unaware of the fact that there was some hairy guy behind the curtain pulling levers, and that there was expensive camera equipment happening.
I mean, the Wizard of Oz worked on Johnny Carson's show behind the curtain. I don't know. Well, there was a time Rickles went ahead and broke his cigarette holder. Johnny went nuts. But anyway, back to Letterman. You're right. It was a different show. It was unlike anything we had ever seen. Correct?
Right. Well, Letterman just wanted to make everyone aware of it. He wanted to take away whatever sense of importance there was about being a Hollywood celebrity or being a talk show host. And you were kind of talking before about like segments that kind of illustrate how silly all of this is.
Yeah. What were some of the ones that caught on?
I mean, I think the remote segments were the things that did great. Like there was one segment that was the first week or the second week of the show called like Alan Alda, A Man and His Chinese Food. And there was this Chinese, it's still there actually, I think it's Hunan Balcony is the name of the place. It's on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. And there were photos of Alan Alda in the window because he went to eat there, and one day he was just friendly with the cooks and took a picture. And Letterman just sort of assumed himself as like this on-the-street reporter and went in to like question the management of the restaurant. Is he a big tipper? What does he order? Treating it as if it matters, There was another time I think that they would do like a lot of, there's tons of times they did found humor. There was a store in Manhattan called Just Bulbs, and it was just a light bulb store. And Letterman would go in and ask, where are the broomsticks? Where's the Windex? And they would go, no, it's just bulbs. No, it's just bulbs.
Yeah, that was great. And he had the guys cooking all that stuff for him and all that. And he had that woman in the window across the hall for a long time. He kind of was a setup joke, as a Jack Benny-esque, because you kept seeing the camera shoot across the way to a woman that was in the building. And finally they went over there and talked to her. She would be there during, when they were taping the show or whatever. And it was pretty interesting stuff. Didn't he also, when the GE guys took over, didn't he kind of put down the goons from GE or whatever when he was talking about it? Got in a little bit of trouble on that.
I don't know if he got in trouble, but yeah, I think that was like 86 when GE bought NBC, and they would go up to the GE building was different. It wasn't in 30 Rock. It was somewhere on Madison Avenue, and yeah, they went in to try to talk to them. And there
was a secret GE handshake or something that he discovered. I mean,
you're right about this. The handshake.
Oh, you're right about this, though. I'm telling you, Brian Abrams is here. The show, I think, on NBC, the late night show, was funnier than the show he's got now on CBS. Not to take anything away from what he's doing, but it was just a lot more of him doing those interviews and things that he doesn't do anymore.
Yeah, that, and I think it was a different time, too, because you remember that, well, two things happened, right? So I think Letterman has... he got older, and I think he just sort of realized that he didn't want to be in his 40s doing this kind of 30-something clubhousey vibe, and he wanted to change as a person too, but he influenced late night to the point where other networks started getting in on the game, and even today you look at shows, it's really, really, really difficult to pick it out, how ingrained early Letterman is in the fabric of like a Fallon or a Kimmel. Just the day-to-day things they do now wouldn't have happened had Letterman kind of not introduced that.
Yeah, he was like a frat house kind of guy who was in the frat house. And you're right. What Paul had a comment. Yes.
Yeah, kind of on a personal note, a lot of people give Johnny Carson kind of credit for giving so many comedians a break, especially when he would approve their performance and invite them on over to the couch. That was like a huge big deal. But when the comedians would go on David Letterman, whether it was Richard Lewis or Jerry Seinfeld or all the ones that would come on, they would truly be, incredibly funny.
Yeah, well, I think, that's true about Johnny. If they said that, if you were invited over to the couch, then the next day, you became, we didn't become a millionaire, but you became famous, like, overnight. And you also have to remember that sort of legacy and this sort of idea of Johnny making comedians famous was true because he was the only show on. So when they talk about, there being a 9 million viewership Johnny Carson, it's because there was nothing else on at that hour except the CBS Late Show.
Yeah, but they tried Joan Rivers and they tried Merv Griffin.
Later, yeah.
Merv Griffin was on there at the very beginning. Steve Allen was in syndication at that time. They put a lot of stuff on there. Rick Dees even had a shot at it there for a while to do some things. So they were looking for some stuff to put in there. But
he made Leno. He made Jay Leno. Let's be perfectly honest.
That's true, yeah. So you're talking about Letterman. When Leno was considered like an edgy comic once upon a time in the 80s.
What's my beef?
Right. What's my beef, Dave? And he would come on and sit on the couch and sort of, just go over whatever was in the paper that day. And but Leno, Sandra Bernhard, Pee Wee Herman, I mean, you could actually name Richard Lewis. There were a lot of comics who got national exposure. Howard Stern, because of Late Night. And also, I think that Carson, not to knock Carson, but he wouldn't invite every comic over to the couch. There was this sort of snobbery about it almost. And meanwhile, Letterman booked like the nut lady from Connecticut or Harvey Pekar or like this guy who kept food in his bedroom drawers just because. I think he wanted to illustrate the point of how, it's not celebrities on one side of the room and everyone else on the other.
Right.
We're all just kind of in the same.
It's kind of the common, and Carson had that a little bit too with the potato chip lady when he tried to eat one of her potato chips, or she thought he did. Anyway, good stuff. Hang in here with us. Brian Abrams was here. We're talking about an oral history of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1993. Dave working his last 3 shows this week, the end of an era.
What's the secret to great business trips? Choice Hotels, where you'll find everything a business traveler needs, like a generous rewards program. And right now, choose Choice twice for 2 separate trips and get a night at no price. Stay for business at Choice Hotels and book now at choicehotels.com. Great endings begin here. Free night based on an 8,000-point Choice Privileges Reward night at over 1,500 hotels. Valid 2/19/15 through 4/22/15. Requires registration and 2 separate qualifying stays. Other terms and conditions apply. Details at choicehotels.com.
Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
Ryan, technician with Safe Light Auto Glass.
So you think all auto glass companies are the same? Well, they're not. With Safe Light, you get more. Every windshield we replace is backed by a national lifetime guarantee, keeping you covered wherever you are. Plus, Safe Light has more glass in stock than anyone, so we can get to you faster. Just tell your insurance company you want Safe Light. We'll even handle the paperwork. It's easy. A quick call is all it takes. So choose Safe Light.
Homeowners, now is the season to be thinking about your roof, because all it takes is one storm to turn a small roof problem into a major leak. If it's time for a new roof, call Sears at 888-465-9720. You can save $500 if you call right now. Sears licensed, fully insured contractors can get your roofing job done right. Just call 888-465-9720. Sears has a variety of shingles and styles that are built for long-lasting performance, and you'll save $500 if you call now. So call Sears for a free home consultation at 888-465-9720. Hurry, offer ends soon. Not available in all areas. Installation provided by Sears authorized licensed contractors. License information available upon request. That's Sears Roofing. Call right now and save $500. Call 888-465-9720. 888-465-9720. Call Sears now and get that roof repaired. Call 888-465-9720.
Back to the PM show here on CRN Digital Talk Radio. Michael Horn, Paul Stern, and our guest, Brian Abrams, who has written an ebook. You can download it on your Kindle, on your it's on the iPod too. Am I right, Brian?
Right. Just go to LettermanHistory.com and it'll kind of lead you to where you need to go.
It's called An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1993. Or go to, as he said, Letterman History. So, was Dave Letterman ever one of the comedians on the Johnny Carson show, on the old Tonight Show?
He guest hosted. That's kind of where, well, actually, I don't think Silverman recognized him until later, but he was in this rotation among guest hosts for Johnny. Johnny would often take Monday nights off for years. And he and David Brenner, let me think who else. Joan Rivers, I think, was even in the mix back then.
Jay Leno was in the mix, too?
A little bit later, when Letterman already had his show, then Leno kind of came in.
Oh, you're right. That's very true. So,
but yeah, it was 78, 79 that Letterman kind of guest hosted for Johnny, and he was kind of a nobody then, but Johnny loved him, and I think some kind of mentorship there developed even before Letterman had any sort of rapport with Fred Silverman. Who's to say he had any rapport with Fred Silverman?
We don't know, but I still gave him his start in the biz, as we said. Now, what about some of the bits that he started? What about whatever happened to Larry Bud Melman? I mean, some of that stuff was the proprietary bits of NBC, so he couldn't use his name anymore after that, after he left and went to CBS. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, that's right. I mean, I'm not an expert on the CBS years, but there was a lot of trouble with sort of moving his content or whatever term they called it back then over to CBS when he took the job there for the 11:30 slot. And actually, that's a huge reason why I think Letterman's legacy is a little bit confounding for, say, anyone under the age of 45, because if you weren't there to watch Letterman in the 80s, the reruns weren't there. They really weren't there through like two generations of television watchers have missed out unless you go searching on YouTube for clips of Letterman from NBC to find someone who maybe digitized their VHS collection, which they did.
Yeah, it's good point to talk about that, because it was definitely different. There was Stupid Pet Trick started there. How did the Top 10 list start on his old show?
Top 10 list was, and this is in the oral history, and it's really funny. All the writers kind of try to figure out who. There's like 5 writers that claim credit for it, and I'm sure that it's just an interesting kind of thing where maybe everyone has the idea at once and not at once. I don't know. You have to read it to see. It's weird, but I really think they were poking fun at like either a Cosmopolitan magazine or just a kind of silly People magazine. I forget exactly what it was. The 10 sexiest men over the age of 60 or something like that. And they just thought the idea of, and it's actually not too different from today, the way there's a lot of websites that do these listicles and you just like look at it and go, why am I reading this?
I know, and they were funnier on the old Late Show than they are today. He also, on the old Late Show, Andy Kaufman was big there too. Didn't he have like a drag out Jerry Lawler brawl or something like that they had on stage?
July of '82. Yeah, that was in the first 6 months of the show on late night. Where I think Andy, it was put on for sure, but
right.
the studio didn't know about it. The writers didn't know about it. No one knew that there was going to be this. Jerry Lawler was going to stand up and slap Andy Kaufman out of his chair while they were recording, and then even during, or I think it was after that, Kaufman was running up and down the office hallways and screaming and yelling, upset. And he was even kind of trying to convince people who worked at the show that it was real.
Kind of Jerry Springer-esque sort of on that show.
I think so, yeah. I mean, Kaufman always took things to this like incredible level. He committed to the joke so far that no one really knew what was real anymore.
It was true. What about there's a 360-degree rotation episode? What was that about?
That's fantastic. So that was like 85 or 86. And you can find that on YouTube. If you YouTube Letterman 360, it'll come up. Basically, the show was spun 360 degrees for the entire hour. So, like through its lens or whatever. So, like 30 minutes through the show, you're watching the show and it's upside down. And people are like calling in to NBC thinking that there's something wrong with their equipment. Half of the people didn't get the joke, the other half did. And I think the writers just basically wanted to make fun of the concept of video innovation in and of itself, how stupid it all really is. Because, 1985, everyone's walking around with a 60-pound home video camera. This was like an amazing thing for yuppies to play with, I mean, today everyone's got it on a phone. We don't even think twice about it. But
exactly.
They were just kind of poking fun at this idea of like, how zany video effects can be.
I hate to kind of bring it up, but didn't for like the longest time David Letterman kind of as an interviewer have kind of the reputation for being kind of a jerk or something? Didn't Cher once kind of make some kind of a just to voice the comment right there on the stage?
Yeah. Oh, I'm glad you brought that up because you guys mentioned that earlier. Yeah, Dave actually, I think he had a hard time. He had a hard time kind of warming up to being an interviewer at the very beginning. But B, because the show was so new and because they didn't celebrate guests the way Johnny would, that if you had a movie to promote on Friday, they wouldn't be necessarily just so enthusiastic about helping you promote the box office numbers. Not that it wasn't hateful. They just sort of shrugged at the idea of like helping the machine a little bit. And I think it gave the bookers at Letterman like a really hard time in getting, whoever was in town that week to come on. And
he was a little offbeat. Talked to Freddie Dreyer here on our staff about being on the show. He'll give you an interesting insight into Dave. So Dave could have sort of days when he was a little off, where he wasn't, always jovial and happy, but I guess we all have those days. Can you hang in for the final segment coming up here, Brian?
Yeah, sure.
Brian Abrams is here. He has written an ebook, An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1983. You can download it on your Kindle, your iPod, whatever you like. Just look up Letterman History. We continue. Michael Horn and Paul Stern. Come to Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante in Fullerton, California for our sizzling party savings. Book your wedding event or reception, your birthday bash, or a special event of any kind and celebrate at Angelo's and Vinci's. Come to Angelo's and Vinci's and celebrate in one of our many festive banquet rooms. It's an incredible fun event you'll never forget. Food, music, and lots of fun. Call for the details, and don't forget our daily lunch and dinners, plus our Sunday champagne brunch. Just $14.95. Minestrone soup, sausage and peppers, pastas, chicken dishes, salads, scones, and muffins. Plus so much more, a chocolate fondue fountain, Zebblies, cannolis, fresh fruit, champagne, and Junior will be waiting to make the omelet of your choice from our omelet bar. Angelo's and Vinci's has been voted on the Orange County Hot List as one of the top 5 Italian restaurants for the past 6 years. And don't forget our award-winning pizzas. Thin or thick, they're yummy. It's all at Angelo's and Vinci's Restaurante at 550 North Harbor Boulevard in Fullerton, California. Call 714-879-4022, 714-879-4022.
I am a non-attorney spokesperson. Attention men who've taken Androgel or any other testosterone therapy products. Androgel or other low-T products have been linked to heart attack, stroke, pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, even death. Scientific studies indicate that the use of testosterone therapy products may double a man's risk of heart attack. If you or a loved one took Androgel or a testosterone therapy product and suffered from a heart attack, stroke, pulmonary embolism, deep vein thrombosis, or any other cardiac event, you might be entitled to financial compensation. You have rights, and you need to let us fight for your rights. And you pay no fees unless we win. So call the tort attorneys right now. 800-557-7921. 800-557-7921. That's 800-557-7921. Cases may be referred to participating law firms in your jurisdiction.
Homeowners, there's never been a more affordable time to help protect your home and loved ones. You can now get a $100 Visa card from Protect Your Home, your authorized ADT dealer, with the installation of a new ADT monitored system. Call Protect Your Home today at 1-866-669-8954. That's 1-866-669-8954. Call now. 36-month monitoring contract required. General terms and conditions apply. Visit protectyourhome.com/terms.
The Doug Stephan Good Day program, early morning radio, and I guess it is radio, although it's radio on TV because this is CRN Digital Talk. You can find out what's going on in the world. We talk about the issues of the day, the events of the day, the people that people are talking about. We have an interesting way of looking at the news and having a little fun with the issues. So if you want to have some fun, learn a few things, and get up on the right side of the world, Doug Stephan's Good Day program, weekday mornings, 2 to 7 a.m. on CRN Digital Talk.
Back with the PM show, Michael Horn and Paul Stern, our guest, Brian Abrams, ebook author, An Oral History of Late Night with David Letterman, 1982 to 1993. So, Brian, all this good stuff, what is it that makes the later show? If you think about this now, David Letterman leaves, goes to CBS. The show is good, but never as funny as it is at his old late night show. I say the same with Jimmy Fallon. I think Jimmy Fallon was great at 12:30 to 11:30. It's all about him playing games and stuff. It was different at the other time slot. Jimmy Kimmel also started late, moves down earlier into the other time slot. Conan O'Brien starts late, moves into the Tonight Show, doesn't quite make it. The only guy that really made it is Jay Leno, and Johnny Carson, of course, started the thing off, and Steve Allen and all the other guys, Jack Parr and those before it, were new and branding out there. But what is it about that 12:30 slot that made these guys funnier in that time period?
Wow. I mean, that's a loaded
question
there.
Do you agree with me? I mean, they all were fine. I mean, Conan actually has come around and he's the pressure's off, and I think does one of the best late night shows now on TBS. I'll watch him over anybody else right now.
I think a couple of things is kind of what you're getting at. I think number one, yes. I mean, it's really amazing how drastic the audience is, but in the difference between 12:30 and 11:30. I mean, you would think that an hour shouldn't make all that much difference, but a generation of people is the difference between 11:30 and 12:30.
You're right.
And I also think that today's 11:30 is especially different, and today I mean 2015 versus even 2005, in that people are experiencing TV and media on mobile devices. We're not beholden to the television in our living rooms the way we once were. And so I think Jimmy Fallon and Jimmy Kimmel are both very aware of that.
Gotcha.
And they tailor their show to make sure
That's
that
true.
It flies around YouTube the next day for 12 to 18 hours.
And they're masters at that. That is true. But for the rest of us who like to watch on TV, sometimes you miss. What about the battle for Johnny Carson's job between Jay Leno and Dave Letterman? What happened there?
It's really complicated, but essentially this was the late 80s, early 90s. Johnny announced this was May of 91. Johnny had announced at the upfronts at NBC that he was retiring.
Surprised them all. Nobody knew he was going to say that, and he did. You're right.
Even despite the fact that he'd been on the air for, 3 or 4 decades?
Right.
But it was just such a thing that he was such a solid program for the network for so long that no one even thought. It was almost as if everyone just assumed he'd be there for 100 years. But he made this surprise announcement, and things got complicated very, very quickly because a week prior to that announcement, Leno had this really aggressive agent at the time, Helen Kushner.
Helen Kushnick, yeah.
Kushnick, excuse me. Thank you. I'm so glad you're here. I feel like I'm taking a test.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
But they had signed a secret agreement that had guaranteed Leno the 11:30 spot after Johnny. Johnny didn't know about this. Letterman didn't know about this. And all the while, Letterman and Johnny just kind of assumed that Letterman was the next guy. So things got nasty.
So Kushnick actually had the thing signed up for Jay. Got it going for him then, right?
Right. Somehow she got the execs in the headlock at that point.
And Johnny kind of liked Letterman. It made for great stuff. That's a whole book and a movie of its own. Hey, we're out of time here, Brian Abrams, but I want to get this book. I'm sure everybody else does. How do we get it?
Go to LettermanHistory.com, and it'll show you where you can download it.
LettermanHistory.com. You can download it to your iPod, your cell phone, if you've got the Kindle on there, whatever you want to do, you can get it and then read through this. You say it's a pretty quick read, am I right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say 5 to 8 sit-downs, you're done. It's maybe 85 pages.
Who's going to be on the last Letterman show on Wednesday?
Good question. We got, who do we have? Tonight we have Tom Hanks and Eddie Vedder. Tomorrow you got Bill Murray, and they haven't announced Wednesday yet.
I think it's going to be Regis, and I hope Leno, but that's a long shot. We'll see. Hey, thanks so much for being with us. You got a website?
I do. BrianLAbrams.com.
Brian L. Abrams, ABRAMS.com. Thank you, Brian. Thanks to Courtney Cadere for producing the show. Tomas pressing the buttons. Check out the website, CRNTalk.com. Thank you, Paul Stern. I'm Michael Horn. Have a good night.
Which was most appropriate because that was your theme.
Are you tired of hearing your favorite talk radio show sound like this? What if you could hear your favorite shows